This is the Black Creative Handbook with your host, Kassandra Lauren Gordon, where we love the process stories, not just the success stories. And I am here with
JC Morgan with Create Accounting Services.
Okay, you sound like money. You sound like a bank. Okay, I hear you. Okay, I feel financially better already just speaking to you. So it's very important to have the finances and the creatives together, because sometimes it's like oil and water, but we need to mesh, because without finance we can't create. So it's so important. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into our quick fire questions.
Yeah, so I am an accountant, financial reporting manager. My background is in auditing, and I use the information that I've gained throughout my career in corporate to help support my clients with tax planning and tax strategies so that they can know how to maximize their profits and save money on taxes and redistribute those savings into their community. So that's a little bit about me. I have 3 kids. I'm a mom. I'm just a regular person. I'm just a regular girl.
Okay, cool. But for you to have 3 kids, your business, it's all about organization. It must be like you have to plan for them, or you have to like finance them. Because I'm always thinking,
yeah,
I do want kids, but they cost money. How am I supposed to look after these?
Yeah. They definitely cost money. And as of right now, I'm a single mom. So it's been a bit difficult in my entrepreneurial journey because of that, because I don't have the support that, some women are just given when they become entrepreneurs. So my journey is just a little bit different in that. And also I'm currently looking to go back to corporate. So I'm not sure the capacity that I will be able to provide in my business, but I know for sure that I'm not going to leave my people hanging, and I will be here for podcast interviews, speaking engagements and trainings and those sorts of things. So to help continue to increase that financial literacy part.
Perfect. Thank you for being so clear on that. So before we get into the finance, in my head I think of that. Is it the Janet Jackson song "Finance or No Romance"? That I can't remember the song.
Yeah.
That song. We're going to get into quick fire questions where I ask you random questions and you just say,
okay,
what you think and why. So I ask people, are you an early bird or are you a night owl?
I'm definitely a night owl. I'm a very, very much a creative spirit. And most of my, the company that I keep are creatives, and that's just how my brain works. And I get really awesome ideas late at night, 4:00 in the morning, and I like to sleep in. So definitely a night owl.
Okay. I'm talking about exercise. Do you prefer to run or to walk fast?
I think it depends on the mood. I take daily walks, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. I get at least a 2-mile walk in every single day, combined with just when I get a little bit overwhelmed, I just walk. I just leave and walk. But when I'm exercising, I like to do sprints. I was a sprinter when I was in middle school and did track. So I do like dipping off real quick every once in a while.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. Do you prefer to write or to type?
Write. I love to write. The energy just like flows, and I'm able to, feel the feeling through my fingers, and then just feeling the words on the paper. I definitely love to write. Typing's not bad either. It obviously is faster. So if there's a project or a document or an email I need to get out real quick, then it's going to have to be a typed.
Your preferred meal, breakfast or dinner?
Dinner.
And what type of dinner? What's your favorite dinner meal?
I like pasta and chicken. Anything pasta, anything chicken, I'm probably going to eat. But really, I'm not a picky eater. Not a picky eater at all. If it's good and it's seasoned well, I'm going to enjoy it.
Okay, understood. Okay, you're making me hungry now. So we've got to have an insight about who you are. So tell us about your journey of setting up your business or your financial services. Like you started out as an accountant. How does that work in the US? Based in UK, so I've worked with accountants before. There's different routes to be an accountant. You don't have to go to university. You can be vocational. You can do your exams. How does it work in the US to be an accountant?
So it's very similar with the UK because we have pretty much very similar financial processes as the UK does, in Europe countries, and many other, leading countries in the world. So for us, we go to school. After we finish school, typically the next route is to either go through in three different directions. You can either pursue a career in the industry, pursue a career in government, or pursue a career in corporate. So what that really looks like is someone who graduates, they might go to an industry company, and that is an accounting firm. Okay, so this firm provides services to other small businesses, big businesses, SEC organizations, companies that are required to report their earnings to the world, to their community. And that's a little bit fuzzy there too, because not all organizations are required to report. If you're a publicly held company such as Meta, for example, they're publicly held and they're required to report. So someone going into the industry might find a job in an accounting firm such as that, who helps those types of companies. Someone who goes into government accounting would obviously work for a government entity like the federal government, the state government, your local government. And then when they would have different roles inside of that. Who would go into corporate might work for a Meta. They might work for YouTube. They might work for a largely held corporate entity in which they provide specific services in their day-to-day functioning and their day-to-day job. So you would have a job and you have a specific function. Now, one thing that I didn't mention, another career path is one of which I have taken, and that's being an entrepreneur. And being a sole contractor entrepreneur for small businesses looks very different. It's got a lot of moving parts, because you not only need to teach the small business owner how to properly record their financial transactions, but then also it's important to help them make sure that their earnings are getting them a return on income. So return on investment. So lots of different ways that someone can become an accountant and have a career in accountancy. And one thing that I really like to mention is that the accounting field is not one that is very diverse. You see me sitting here as a Black woman in red hair, and I'm probably one of 100,000 that you might find this way. It's a very white male dominated industry. And I like to bring my joy and passion for taxes, accounting, and finances so that other people who look like me might also find a suitable career that might be great for them.
Okay, I hear you. So how do you help creatives, people who probably I'm stereotyping here, who don't want to deal with the taxes, just want to create? How can you make it easier for us to make sure we're not stressed like a week before doing our taxes and stuff like that?
And that's a really great question, because that's really my job in essence, is to stay visible and to stay loud about the importance of keeping track of your income and your expenses throughout the year. If you're doing it a week before, it's too late. If you're gathering up your documents, your financial records, your receipts the week before, it's too late. There's no planning I can do. I can simply put in your information into the tax system and give you a tax return. But if you really want to create that generational wealth, if you really want to navigate the tax code and the tax system in the way that is most beneficial, then it's important to do these specific activities the entire year. And that's where a tax plan comes into play.
Understood. Okay. I feel personally attacked, but I need
Oh,
to
I'm
attack.
sorry.
No, it's really, really been joking. I just like, I need to sort out my stuff out. I need to sort my stuff out ASAP. Um, I say this from a creative, it's like, I feel like sometimes I'm intimidated of like, oh, numbers, and I have to type things and put things into accounting software, and I'm just scared. How can you talk to someone like me a bit scared of looking at numbers sometimes?
Find somebody else who likes to do it. Why do you want to do something you don't like to do?
Ah,
It just doesn't make any sense. Like, find someone who's proficient and passionate about your business as you do. And that's why I love creatives and working with creatives, because I genuinely love art. I love all types of art. And I feel that art brings us together. And I feel that art helps people see all sides of situations. It also helps you to relieve emotions and relieve energy. It's just art is life. So it's very important for me to take that stress off. So I find that I like to work with people who are most passionate about their art and their creativity, because then I'm allowed to come in and take that part, that financial part, that tax part off of your brain. So you have more energy, more brain space to delegate to your creativity and what you're most passionate about.
understood. Okay, I hear that. All right, so yeah, I'm a bit more confident doing the lovely finances and recording and all that. So sometimes in most business, especially creative businesses, you're just hustling. You're in startup mode, and sometimes you're not actually making money. I know when I started my business. So how does that work? How does that, like, you have so much expenses and you're not seeing the money? How do I communicate that to my accountant? It's like, I'm just
You would say just that. I feel like I'm not making money. And a good accountant will say, all right, well, let me see your financial statements. I'll run your financial statements and tell you exactly why you feel like you're not making money. Mostly the case is that your expenses are exceeding your profit or income, your gross sales. And when that happens, I don't say always, all right, let's cut some expenses. Sometimes it's okay to lose for a little bit. Jeff Bezos lost for a lot of years. His profit and loss statement, he had losses for years, and he told his shareholders, like, look, I'm gonna lose for a little bit. So it's not always a bad thing that you're in the loss, but you want to understand and know if the way you're going about something justifies the end result. Okay. So first, sure, I'm going to look at your financial statements and tell you how much money that you're generating, what your expenses look like, and if those expenses are necessary and ordinary for you to continue to generate the type of income that you need. And then I'll say, hey, why don't we kind of make some adjustments and see what these adjustments do and see what your profit is at the end of, say, 6 to 9 months.
understood. Okay, cool. Thank you very much for that. So what have you noticed working with creatives? So we got over some of the fears. What other themes you notice working with creatives with their finances? What have you noticed?
Lots of procrastination and avoidance because it's uncomfortable. It's
Mm,
very uncomfortable. We've always been told not to talk about money and politics and religion, and all of those things are important things to assess and to talk about. And so it gets, and also there's money blocks and money trauma and things that go along with just not checking your bank account, not checking your reports, not doing it, because it's very uncomfortable. So I call it taxiety, because many people at the end of the year, you get this anxiety. It's like, I gotta go do my taxes, and usually you wait to the very end. And that really is a trauma response. So I try to kind of have a consultation with my clients and say, like, where is this coming from? Like, why are you avoiding? And what feelings do you have? And how can I help you navigate those feelings so we can actually get the work done?
understood. Have you had any, apart from like working with creatives and feeling that goodness and seeing the art, what positive things have you found out working with creatives and like in accounting?
The creatives that I work with really understand. Like, I feel like they really understand the purpose of what they're doing, and they're very passionate about it, and they have change in mind. They want to create and facilitate and be a part of genuine change. So in America, as you know, things are pretty crazy over here. And as far as social justice and equality, and many of the creatives I know are social justice activists. So their heart is really into creating equality and facilitating a safe environment for everyone. And that's really why I love working with creatives.
Understood. So being a very financial expert, what, like, just 2 good tips that help creatives keep on track of their business? They might think, oh my God, all right, if there's 2 things I need to take away from here, apart from removing the fear and embracing the finances, what can practically 2 things they can do?
Practical advice is to keep records of your income and keep records of your expenses. And that looks like opening a QuickBooks account, or simply opening an Excel spreadsheet and writing it down. This is how much I got from this client. This is the day that I got it. And this is the type of payment that I received. And looking at that on at least a monthly basis. Same thing for your expenses. This is what I paid for. This is the date that I paid for it on, and this is the method in which I paid for it. If you can just hammer down those 2 things, writing down your income, writing down your expenses, reviewing it on a monthly basis, then you're really on the right track to see some organization and success.
All right, I'm going to ask you something. I know I'm going to put an asterisk saying that, yes, UK accountancies and laws might be different, but just in general, what is the deal with lunches? Because people tell me about lunches with clients or lunches for yourself. What is the deal with lunches and claiming it as expenses? I don't understand this life. How does it work in America?
Well, in America, we have, okay, so let's talk about this first. There's GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles in America. All right, so we have the GAAP set of standards, and we have IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards. And those are standards that across the world, most countries abide by. America is absolutely different in the fact that we go by GAAP, and it's just for America. So there are some tax situations that are different here, such as lunches. Now, here, say I decide to take you out for a lunch. And during that lunch, we talk about your podcast, we talk about accounting, the conversation we're having here. I'm providing you a meal, we eat, we leave. That is considered an ordinary and necessary expense in my business because I'm networking. I'm learning more about your business. I'm learning more about my business. And ultimately, our goal is to reach the other person's network and be able to provide our services. So that lunch, in essence, essentially does bring about you more income. All right. So therefore, that expense here in America is deductible. So if I want to take a client out for lunch and we're going to talk about business, that's what's called a deductible meal expense.
Understood. Okay, I need to check my accountant here because sometimes they say it is, some people abuse it and all this kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. So I need to check in the UK with my accountant what to do. All right. I'm going to ask you, I'm going to be vulnerable with you. I always ask questions. So please forgive me. I'm going to ask you basic things which I should know. When I say for a friend, I'm really asking for myself. So let me see if I get this right. Gross profit, net profit. Can you give a simple explanation? Because sometimes I get
questions. And you know what? I love getting simple questions like this. Gross profit is the amount of money that you earn, totally incomplete. So say you get you have a paycheck, right? You have your gross amount and you have your net pay. Your gross amount is always more than your net pay because your gross amount does not include your taxes, and your expenses. So net, look at it like a net. You have expenses that are going to fall through the net, right? And then at the end is what you have at the end. It's less. So your gross profit, or your revenue, your sales, the amount of money that you generate. So if I send an invoice for $500, my gross sale is 500. However, my net profit for that project might not be 500. It could be 570 because I'm going to take out a percentage for taxes. And then going a little bit further, I also might allocate an expense to that specific project or that client that enables me to assist that client further. So for example, if I'm going to provide a tax return for a client, okay, my fee is $85 for the tax software for me to generate that tax return and e-file it to the IRS. So if I'm invoicing an amount of money, I'm going to take out that $85 because I needed to use that money in order to generate the service for the client. So my net pay would be the total amount minus any expenses that are incurred to generate that gross.
Understood. Great. Right.
Follow-up questions? Does that make sense?
No, that makes sense. I was going to ask you another question between like the profit and loss sheet. Is that what we still call it in America?
Yeah, we call it either the profit and loss statement or your income statement. So those two words are interchangeable. If you are a nonprofit company, then it's called statement of statement of activity or statement of financial position. But in essence, what it is it shows you your income, how much you've made, and it shows you your expenses. Now, your profit and loss statement, though, remember, it's as a period in time. So it's only valuable and useful for a certain point of time. I can't give you profit and loss statement from 4 years back and expect you to make a sound investment decision for today. So most companies, if you're looking for lending options or grants, you're looking for money, investors, they're going to want to see your most recent profit and loss statement.
Okay, so I need to, I'm just like, these are the things that I'm doing right now just to be financially done. I'm trying to think what else is very important as like financial documents, apart from using e-software to upload your receipts and stuff like that and your invoices. I'm just trying to think what else is useful for like a document, what we need to know.
So another thing that we use is your profit and loss statement. So there are four important financial statements. So you have your balance sheet, your profit and loss statement.
Balance sheet, okay. What does that mean?
Your balance sheet shows what you owe and what you own and who you owe. Okay. So your assets and your liabilities. Mm-hmm. All right. Hear somebody say that's an asset. That is something that is generating that in itself, by being there, is helping you to generate more income. A liability, on the other hand, is something that you owe. So that could be prepaid insurance. That could be a loan. That could be a credit card. All right. And investors like to know what you own and who you owe, because they want to know, if I give you this money, are you going to be able to pay it back? And how quickly are you going to be able to pay it back? It shows the liquidity. It's called liquidity. How liquid are your assets? How liquid are your liabilities? Can you instantly, so cash is an asset, for example, and it goes on your balance sheet. Cash is considered a very liquid asset because you can immediately just withdraw and use your money. On the other hand, you might have equipment like your podcast equipment, your studio equipment. That's not as liquid because you'd have to find a buyer. That buyer, you'd have to agree on a payment arrangement and then sell it. However, those are assets to your company because it helps you create more. It helps you create more services.
Okay, so I interrupt you. So that's one sheet. You said there's 3 other important documents we need to know.
Yes, and then you have your cash flow statement as well as your owner's equity statement. And these are two mostly missed statements that I see from most entrepreneurs. However, in corporate and in Big Four accounting, these are very important statements, as this tells us how a company is using their money. Like, I want to know how the cash is flowing in and out. What are you using money for? How are you using that? How quickly are you using that? It tells us how are you getting money from sales? Are you getting money from loans? Are you getting money from selling off equipment? If I see a cash flow statement that is heavy on the loan side and heavy on the selling things side, selling an inventory, that tells me it's probably a company that's going to go down pretty soon because they have a lot of liabilities and they're selling off all their assets. So the cash flow statement is very important. And then the owner's equity statement simply tells you how much stake, how much shares you have in your business. And typically this statement is seen with publicly traded companies. So you'll see one for Meta or Facebook, and Mark Zuckerberg might be one of the, and you'd be able to see how much shares he has invested in the company.
Okay, I'm trying to work out what's the difference between the balance sheet and the cash flow. Like, what would it look like? What's the difference?
So the balance sheet, at the top, you have your assets and your liability. Mm-hmm. Okay. Ending final numbers for that period. Your cash flow statement shows you how you're using, where you're getting money and how you're using it. So it'll say something like income from investment opportunities, income from loans, income from operations, money from operations. That tells us exactly where you're getting that cash.
Okay, so it's like a bank statement for your business in a way. It's just
in a way, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm talking like creative, so a lot of creative like myself, we are bootstrapping. So, a lot of from sales, your own money, you're hustling legally, stuff like that. So a lot of with creatives, we use our own money, and I think in England, directors loans, we call them director loans, where we take money sometimes for our own bank account, or we use our own money to finance the business because, we don't have no rich moms and dads giving us big loans and all that kind of stuff. So does that look, because some people don't some accountants look at that, but it's just that's how sometimes sometimes some communities, you got to self-finance, so I'm just trying to think about how those accountants, your view of seeing that, seeing a bootstrapped startup kind of transactions.
I see that all the time, really, I see it all the time because, like you said, in the Black community, we don't have that mom or dad who has saved up hundreds of thousands of dollars for us to fly out of the nest. And going in even further, oftentimes we might not even have the credit to go pull out a small business loan. So the only other option is to either work a job and save up your money and then invest in your company that way, or start making a sale and then do what you got to do. Like you said, we're hustlers in essence, and we're fighters, and that's just how we are as people. The biggest thing I would say from that is, if you are bootstrapping and you were hustling in those first few years of your business, keep the end in sight, because you will not always need to hustle and bootstrap. You will not always need to put your own money in. And so for me, what that looks like was setting up my systems and my financial processes up early. So that way, after a year or two, I have the documents to prove that I've been running a legitimate business and it's making money. And that looks like setting up your internal controls and setting up your financial processes so that when it's time for you to go apply for a loan, because now you have your tax returns, you have your financial statements, you have everything in order. When it's time for you to be able to go get money, go get someone else's money, you need to be able to provide documents and proof. So that's the part that I really see small businesses struggle with. I get it. The part of having a bootstrap, the part of having to put your own money, that's hard. It's very hard. And in some ways, it's not always fair, but that's just what we have right now sometimes. And therefore we just have to work with what we have. Okay. So yeah, I might gotta hustle up for about a year or so, but in the process, I'm going to make sure that I document my income, my expenses. In the process, I'm going to make sure I file my taxes. In the process, I'm going to make sure that I'm running an operation that looks viable for someone else to invest in.
Understood. Reading a lot of startup stories, I haven't done it personally, but reading a lot of startup stories, regardless of what ethnicity, people use their personal loans or they use personal credit cards. I was wondering what your views on that to fund their business, your views on that type of stuff, and how
Really?
to document that in the business.
So how you would document a loan is you would add a payable into your balance sheet, and then you would increase your cash because now you're getting cash. So you're going to increase your cash and increase your payable. So that's really what that entry looks like. As far as the right way or wrong way to do things, I really don't want to say if that's a right way or wrong way, because it's very intimate on your business plan, your position, and what your long-term goals are. So I'm very hesitant to say like what's the right thing and wrong thing to do without ever seeing someone's financial statements, because it could be the right thing to do for one person, it could be the wrong thing to do for someone else.
Understood. So is there anything else you want to say about financial literacy or financial planning for creatives?
I think the best advice that I can give, like I said before, is find an accountant who also has your best interest in mind, who is in your corner, who understands the work that you do and the audience that you're going for, because ultimately you're a business owner. Okay. So if I go into, I want to help someone who sells cars, I'm going to want to know the ins and outs of selling a car, so that I can make sure that I help you make the best decision. So ultimately for a creative, find an accountant who is for creatives like me, entertainment accountants. There are many different styles of accounting, and not every accountant is built the same. So find someone who's for you, and take your business, take your creativity like a business, take it seriously and genuinely like it's a business, because it is.
Understood. Okay. I was going to ask you before, I'm going to ask you obviously, what is the best like testimonial someone said, a client said about your services, like helping them with their financial life?
I feel like everyone is just so kind.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone is so kind. Most recently, I had a client who just basically said that I helped them, work through some money blocks and work through some money trauma. And for me, that means a lot. Just for someone to say, you helped me work through this situation, lets me know that I'm on the right path. And that could really be as simple as a client saying like, hey, I really appreciate you. I feel so light leaving this conversation. I feel so good leaving this conversation. That to me, it just like, I will literally jump up and down as soon as I'll be like, okay, you're welcome. I'll click the phone and then I'll go jump up and down in my house, because just to be able to relieve some of that stress and know that I have your back is so fulfilling to me.
Oh, that is such a warm thing to say. Oh, you don't really hear about that with accountants, so it's just really nice. A heartwarming story. Obviously, we're going to put stuff in the show notes about how to find you and connect with you, but for the audio listeners out there, would you like to say how we can contact with you?
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me on Facebook, JC Morgan. I post really awesome content on my Facebook page, but even more awesome content inside of my group. And that is Business Finance Management for Entrepreneurs. And I give specific tips. I give training. There's live training there. I introduce my trainings there first. And I just give really amazing specific advice that you can use as an entrepreneur going forward. You can also find me, that's Business Finance Principles business finance management for entrepreneurs. You can also find me on Instagram, j.c.morgan. I'm not so much active on there. I'm still trying to understand like the whole algorithm and whatnot. I really am a box kind of person. So not too popular on IG yet, but you could definitely find me on there, see my crazy hair and stories of my everyday life.
Perfect. Oh, that is so great. I feel financially better talking to you. Hopefully it manifests in my bank account. And because you come at the right time, because in my head I'm talking to my accountant next week. So I'm just like, I need to get my stuff ready. So thank you for the prep. Thank you for coaching me. Like to do it and not to have this money trauma, and just do the work. So I really appreciate all your expertise and your warmness and kindness. So please contact JC Morgan.
Yes, contact me.
Definitely. And thank you for listening to the Black Creative Handbook. Speak soon.
Thank you for having me.